Coach Dedrique Taylor of the Cal State Fullerton Titans comes on marching to madness once again as the Titans are 5-5. They have some good wins so far this season. Coach, you followed up a loss to San Diego State where you played well. You came back with a win over Life Pacific Sunday evening to put the record to 5-5.
Yeah. I think we're one of those teams that we're just trying to find a level of consistency, and I think our losses we're very inconsistent, and I think our wins we're very consistent with what it is that we do. So that tells you two things. It tells you that you know what to do. Now the second thing is just a matter of doing it and being consistent with it. So we've learned a lot about this ball club, and I think we have a lot of tools in the shed. It's just a matter of getting those tools to work at the right time and work together.
Now you garnered that win, but you guys played tough against San Diego State. I'm going to talk a little bit about it because you tied the game after being 14 down in the first half. So in doing that, how does that bode well for your kids, knowing that the Aztecs are going to probably be in the NCAA tournament, and then it's a growth piece going into the Big West, isn't it?
Sure. Yeah. No, I think it does. It provides a lot of confidence for this group, both individually and collectively, that we can play with a group like San Diego State, who, like you said, will probably be in the Big West, will probably be in the NCAA tournament. It gives us great confidence that we can hang with those guys, but having confidence to hang with those guys and then beating those guys, giving ourselves a chance. I thought we did that, but like you said, we tied it up, and then all of a sudden we had 2 or 3 or 4 consecutive bad possessions, both offensively and defensively. And at that level, that's quite frankly the difference, where, talent may be equal or they may be a little more talented than us. And so we have to play a little better of a game in terms of execution. And that's the other thing that we learned, that yes, we're a good, talented team, but we've got to play the game a certain way and do certain things to continue to give ourselves a chance to win.
Well, defense is where you were looking for major improvement. You're holding up to that. I think allowing only 66.5 points per game. Talk about the improvement you've seen on defense and where it needs to go now to be a finished product.
I think there's a different level of awareness on that side of the basketball in terms of what it is that we want to do, and then going out and doing it. We're very fortunate in terms of having a good staff here that substitutes that way. Substitutes, in a bad, it's not bad. It's just like, hey, these are the things that we're going to sub you for. If you do these things, hey, knock yourself out, you'll be on the floor. But when you come out because of a missed block is out. When you come out because of you're not jumping to the ball, very simple basketball, but our staff is pinpointed that, and literally, like, it's almost like musical chairs. If a guy doesn't do it, he has to come out, and he knows why he's coming out, and that's on both sides of the ball. And so, for us, improvement wise, I would really love to see us. We have to improve our 3-point percentage defense. Teams are shooting the ball at a very, very high clip from behind the arc, and it's almost like I think we did the math. It's like a +9 or maybe a +12 in terms of their percentage. And so if we can cut that in half, all of a sudden, it gives us a chance to be an even better ball club moving forward.
I was curious. I know your tempo is like 18.5 seconds per possession. Talk about how that plays into, both sides of the ball.
I think that is probably about what this team is capable of. I thought that we could play a lot faster, and I wanted to play a lot faster, but I just think personality wise, we're able to play at that pace. I'm really good friends with the San Diego State coaches, and that's one thing that they talked about after the game was our pace. It's not sped up, it's not super fast, and it just flows. And so, from an offensive standpoint, that helps us in terms of control and being under control. From a defensive standpoint, we want to get up after you and see if we can turn guys over and see if we can create some extra points for ourselves moving forward. And I think with this group, the interesting thing is, like, if you look at our starters, we start 2 transfers and 3 returners, and
Mhm.
them meshing is not easy. You know what I mean? It's not easy. It's not like you have 5 starters that are returners that grew up in the program. You know, you have 2 or 3 guys that were other places this time last year. And so now all of a sudden you're trying to change their mindset to fit what it is that you need. And so we're going through that a little bit, but the pace, getting back to the pace, I think the game settling in and allowing the pace to kind of take over, it helps us from a beneficial standpoint in terms of offensively, and then defensively, it also helps us a little bit.
I was going to ask you about that connectivity. In fact, that was my next question. I had 4 returning starters and then several role players and then 4 graduate transfers. So when you try to put that together, if you've got the revolving door year after year, there's only so deep you can get
Sure.
inside of your system. Is that
Yeah.
right?
No,
Anybody.
yeah, it's 100% accurate, and I'm gonna probably take a shot at some of these players, from a standpoint of like coaches, their system is their system, right?
Mhm.
But the thing with the transfer portal is that guys are jumping off these rosters into other rosters like hotcakes, like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
And it's the mindset is, okay, well, if I can't do what I want to do here, hey, maybe I could just go over here, and because this school is so and so, I can do what I want over here. Well, no, we have the same standards as they do. They want to win just like we want to win.
Yeah.
And trying to get guys to understand that mindset, and then trying to get guys to buy in or believe that that's the way that you have to play is going to be the hard part for us coaches moving forward. It's going to be the mindset. It's not the talent. It's not the lack of talent. It's the mindset. And the mindset right now is guys are transferring because they can't play the game the way that they want to play it at that particular place.
Right.
It has very little to do with winning. It has very little to do with losing. It has very little to do with anything outside of themselves. They're so consumed with themselves to where they want to say, okay, well, I can go over here and I can do this, right, the other. I can develop my game.
Yeah.
You can't develop your game if it causes us to lose.
Right.
So so that's the hard part for us coaches now moving forward is the mindset, in my opinion, is of continuing to establish a level of cohesiveness, a connectivity, and I think you see it across the board. You like Memphis, they're going through it or went through it.
Yeah.
They had a big win last night, and I could just feel the pressure kind of releasing as they were making shots.
Couldn't you? Yeah. I watched the game.
I mean, and think about this. They have like 3 to 4 Hall of Fame guys on their bench.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then guys are, Rasheed Wallace is like one of the best players to ever play.
Right.
Penny Hardaway.
Yeah. Larry Brown.
I mean, gummy, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like these guys have thought about more basketball than the guys that they're coaching will ever know. But the mindset is that the guys that are playing, their mindset is not respect driven. Like this is Anthony Hardaway, and I'm going to do whatever Coach Brown says. Screw all the other voices that I'm hearing. I'm going to do what my coach says. Mick Cronin is having the same issue. All the way down to Cal State Fullerton, and I think it's one of those things that is very consistent in our ball club, and I hate this, not ball club, in every program and in our ball game in general. It's just this selfishness that exudes itself, and it's hard to win when you do that. It's hard to win.
And you mentioned the word respect. That was the thing I was taking away from it. If they don't respect a culture, if they don't do the homework on Larry Brown, or they should know Penny, I mean, or I think, but look how old they are.
Yeah. And so that too in itself is another issue, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily, I'm saying it's the players, but it's also the other voices, their parents, their AAU guys. Like, you got a chance to be coached by one of the greatest players in the country who played the game when he played the game. And then, a Hall of Fame coach who's won a national championship. And then you get coached and worked with by Rasheed Wallace and some of the other Cody Tabbert, some of the other guys that are on that staff. I mean, and it's like, again, it's a respect factor that I'm going to trust that those guys are going to deliver me at said goal. And I think the trust factor and the belief factor is non-existent. People don't trust, or kids don't trust, or parents don't trust, or they don't believe that the coaches are going to do what they say they are, what they're going to do. And so to me, therein lies the disconnect.
Mm-hmm. EJ Anosikie, I know him well. He comes over from Tennessee. I saw him play there last year. He's really having a great year. 17.2 points, 7.8 boards. Has he exceeded maybe what you thought he would do coming in?
Not really. He's been exactly what we thought he would be in terms of, where he transferred to Tennessee from Sacred Heart.
Yeah.
If you look at those numbers and you look at the numbers that he's currently putting up, they're very similar. And I thought at this level, he's a mismatch, and he's very productive with his activity. He's very productive with who he is and how he plays the game. And I think in short order, that's what we're seeing is like, he's a very aggressive around the basket, rebounding, scoring dude, and again, if you know anything about East Coast basketball, like he's the epitome of East Coast basketball.
Yeah. Trey Maddox Jr. was a Big West second teamer last year. His offensive numbers have been down a little bit, I think. How does he bounce back?
I think he's got to buy into the way that we have to play. Last year our roster was a little bit different. It was decimated with injury. It was decimated obviously by the COVID, and there was just all kinds of things going on with our roster. And so, he took and made a lot of shots, where this year he doesn't necessarily have the same role. He still can take and make a lot of good shots, but taking and making those good shots, I think they're different this year than they were last year. And I think he's starting to understand and appreciate the guys that are around him, on the floor. There's some talent on the floor. There's EJ, and then, then there's Dante Maddox Jr., who shoots the ball at a very efficient clip. There's also Vincent Lee at 6'8", 6'9", who's been here, and he commands a different type of presence. And so, it's almost like it's for our level, it's almost like a pro team. There's a lot of talent around, and so we have to learn how to perform night in and night out with said talent.
And then, of course, you just mentioned Dante. He's getting 10 a game, but that 48.7 percentage, I think, is what people are going to look at when they game plan for you.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. He's a guy that, and he's been very consistent. He did the same thing last year. He was in the 90-50-40 club in terms of he shot over 90% from the free throw line. He shot over 50% from two, and he shot over 40% from three. And I think he's in the same make and mold. Again, he suffers from, the shots are not as plentiful as they were last year, but again, he's super efficient, and he understands that the shots are not as plentiful. And so when he takes a shot, it's 9 times out of 10 one that he can make. And so we're really, really pushing for him to continue to produce for our ball club moving forward, because we need it.
Yeah, and Vincent Lee, a big man that comes back in. Talk a little bit about how him and Anosikie play off each other.
I think Vincent is very understanding and very appreciative of playing with a guy like EJ, who does what EJ does. He rebounds at a very high clip, and he commands a double sometimes, or he can even leave it one-on-one, and it just frees up Vincent, I think, to be able to go and do what he does, which is operate on the perimeter from a pass and catch or throw and chase standpoint, a ball screen standpoint. He can throw it to EJ, and all of a sudden EJ is going to shoot it. He can go get rebounds as well. And so I think the biggest thing is just being able to help him do some of the things that he's able to do. Whereas last year we played basically 4 guards and a big, whereas now we're playing 2 bigs and 3 guards. And that just gives EJ a little more, or not EJ, Vincent, a little more freedom to do certain things in terms of those things that are in his repertoire.
On your basketball team right now through 10 games, where have you seen the most consistency, and then where do you feel you got to still improve, to be a factor in the Big West?
Where I've seen the most consistency is just scoring in and around the rim.
Mhm.
We stat this, and anytime the ball touches the paint twice, we have an unbelievable efficiency rate. And we do it every single game, and every single game it's like well above 50%. I think one game it was like in the 70 percentile when the ball touches the paint. And so if we can continue to buy into that and continue to believe that that's the way that we have to play the game, especially with two bigs, letting those bigs touch the paint or touch the ball in the paint often and early, I think it frees us up to be a better shooting. And that's an area where we've got to be better in terms of being a better outside shooting team. The other area that I think we have to improve if we want to make a stand in our league is our 3-point field goal percentage. Defense has to improve. Right now it's at like 38, 39, almost 40%. In my opinion, you can't win consistently at the level, letting a team shoot that good of a percentage from three.
Yeah. How do you change that perimeter defense? What are you looking at doing there?
Well, I think you have to be very intentional with your purpose. And number
Yeah.
one, on the ball, you have to be better, and you have to what we call shock the ball a lot better than we are right now.
Mhm.
That's number one in terms of just ball pressure. You can't allow the ball to window shop. You got to put that
Yeah.
ball to the rest and make them throw a lob pass versus a laser bullet pass. That's one area that we can improve in and be better at. The other area is just understanding schematically in terms of the midline, in terms of it changes. When the ball goes away from you, the midline is closer to the ball. When the ball comes towards you, understanding the midline is closer away from you and you need to go home. And so just being able to be aware of those, identify those, and then really, really work and coach those things up. And I think one other area is just we're gambling a lot in our post area digs, and we're gambling way too much. And we're playing against some good teams, some
Yeah.
good shooting teams. And so they don't need a whole lot. They just need a short, small window to get that ball up. And I think that's an area that we've got to be more intent and more purposeful for what we're doing.
Well, when you look at the conference this year, it's a tough again. I've told you I've always felt like it was underrated,
Yeah.
and I think Cal Santa Barbara and Cal
Mhm.
Irvine have proven that over and over, actually, with
Yeah.
wins and whatnot,
Yeah.
especially in March. How do you break this down?
Our league is very wide open from that standpoint. But if you look at our league, I would say that Santa Barbara and Irvine are two teams that consistently do what they do. And I think the biggest thing, especially Irvine, is they don't beat themselves.
Mhm.
That's a really, really hard thing to do, is to not beat yourself. Like you can't,
Yeah.
if you look at Irvine's turnovers, they don't turn the ball over at an alarming rate. You look
Right.
at the points that they allow. I think it's in the top 5 of the country. The teams average something like 52 points a game
Yeah.
against them. The other thing is 3-point field goal percentage defense. They're in the top 20 in the country. And so they're at a level where they don't beat themselves. They just literally do what they do. You're either going to take a tough 2, or
Yeah.
it's a challenge shot at the rim, or a challenge 3. That's how they believe. That's how they coach. That's how they recruit. And they're very consistent. And I think Santa Barbara is right under that in terms of that's how they believe. They're probably a little more talented on paper than Irvine is, but they believe the same way. And then there's the rest of us that are trying to get to that level. And I think Davis is another school. They won last night, so they're on the top of my mind. They beat
I
Oregon
saw
State.
that. Yeah.
Oregon State. And really what Davis does is they just play hard. They just play hard. And again, it's you got to match their playing hard, and then you got to out execute them if you plan on winning. So there's nothing easy in our conference, in my opinion. I mean, a school like Bakersfield, who has a very unique brand of basketball, they pressure you and get after you for 40 minutes, not 94 feet. You got to deal with that. When conversely, you play a school like UC San Diego, who's in the top 20 in the country in terms of their ability to shoot the 3. They have 5 guys on the floor and they shoot it from all 5 positions. So, if you play those 2 schools back to back, you're talking about playing 2 different brands of basketball. And so that's our league in a nutshell. You have different teams that play a unique brand of basketball, but they believe in it and they execute it really, really hard. And so how do you break into that is you have to understand how you have to play. And then you just got to consistently execute it night in and night out. And then you can expect to give yourself a chance to break through.
Coach Dedrique Taylor, always a great interview on your coach. Glad to catch up with you, and I wish you the best out there this year.
Sure, I appreciate it. I definitely enjoy speaking with you, and I appreciate you having me on.